Hello everybody, it's Rob here from the Bayfields Light Railway, and this has to be one of our most favourite places on earth, and you'll see why shortly. Today I am at the Rural Life Centre, which is a museum just outside Farnham in Surrey. I've been coming here for many years now, so I've decided to bring you here to give you a quick look around the museum and of course look around the narrow gauge railway that's here as well. So let's go and have a look around the museum. So today at the Rural Life Centre is actually a special event called Steam at Work. So there's lots of traction engines, steamrollers chugging around the place. And although it's September here in the UK, it is absolutely roasting. It must be about 32 degrees. So I am staying in the shade for a bit because I am sweating.
The museum started out as a private collection of rural stuff belonging to Henry and Madge Jackson, who lived in the cottage on site here. Over the years, their collection of farming vehicles, tools and related items grew and grew, and the collection was open to the public in 1973. Here you will find everything from vintage vehicles, machinery and old buildings, some of which have been moved brick by brick from the local area. This garage and cycle workshop used to be at Frimley Green, not far from where I live. The building was moved, rebuilt and has been lovingly restored to its former glory. It's like a time capsule when looking inside. This granary was built in the 18th century. It's raised off the ground on these special pillars called staddle stones. This stops the mice from getting in and eating the grain that's stored inside. This shepherd's hut was built by Taskers of Andover, who are well known for building traction engines.
One thing I've always loved about this place is the weird mannequins. This guy has been here a long time.
The social history of rural life is displayed in the many barns and buildings on the site, including this recreation of period shops and trades. The schoolroom was built in around 1900 and is typical of a corrugated iron building of the period. It lasted for many years locally until it was hit by the 1987 hurricane. It was then moved here for preservation. There are also many displays demonstrating what life was like during the World Wars.
This prefab house was built in 1943. They were built to replace destroyed houses in the Second World War. Most of them were made out of basic materials, corrugated iron, just as a way to rehome families who had lost their homes.
The majority of exhibits here are fully working, and you will often see volunteers demonstrating vintage crafts and skills. The operational Woodyard is a great example of this. Trees from the site that need to be felled are brought here to be milled and used in various buildings and projects around the museum. I've been coming to this museum now for as long as I can remember, and I've seen it develop and grow over many years. I think what I like about it is it's not pristine. Although of course the museum has to provide for modern visitors, it still feels authentic and rustic and genuinely lived in. The highlight for me, however, is of course the narrow gauge railway that runs around the outside of the museum. Originally founded way back in the early 1970s, the railway was first located at a disused pumping station in Farnham. Then, in 1982, the land was sold for housing and the railway and stock were moved here. Since the move, the railway has been lengthened and developed and now runs along 3 sides of the museum grounds. There are 4 stations: Reeds Road, Old Kiln Holt, Oaklands and Mills Wood. Most journeys start here at Mills Wood, and on the platform you will find a waiting shelter built from an old Portsdown and Horndean Light Railway tramcar. There is also a run-round loop and a rail connection to the Woodyard that we saw earlier. Trains leave Mills Wood and descend through Oakland Station and past the children's playground, eventually arriving at Old Kiln Holt. Here are the railway's workshops and yard area, with lots of lovely narrow gauge vehicles on display. Although trains don't normally stop here, you can see all this from the museum. The railway currently owns 2 steam locomotives named Eloise and Pamela. Eloise, seen here, is an 060 well tank built by German manufacturers Orenstein and Koppel in 1922. It originally worked in Portugal and after several changes of ownership arrived here in 1986. The other steam engine is Pamela, which is currently being restored after many years out of use, but here are some photos of it seen during a previous visit. Built by the Hunslet Engine Company in 1906, Pamela is a large quarry class locomotive built for the Penrhyn slate quarries in North Wales. Its distinctive appearance is due to a rebuild in 1930 using a boiler from another locomotive. There is also a diverse collection of internal combustion locos on the railway, with vehicles from such builders as Hunslet, Ruston, Planet, Motorrail and Mose. The FC Hibbard Planets loco, top entailing the passenger train with Eloise, was built in 1941. Originally working for the Ministry of Defence in Liphook in Hampshire, it later worked for a civil engineers contractor in Godalming. Working trains into the Woodyard was this Ruston 20DL class loco named Susan. Also built in 1941, Susan is typical of the many small IC locos built for military depots and industrial complexes up and down the country. On leaving the yard, the trains head along the perimeter of the site and eventually terminate at Reeds Road Holt, which is next to the museum's car park. Here is another run-round loop, water tower, sidings and a few more wagons to photograph. This railway has always had a very special place in my heart, and may well be what got me hooked on narrow gauge railways in the first place. Mum and Dad would bring me and my brother here as kids, when the railway was still being developed. I remember seeing the rusty, work-worn locomotives and being fascinated with their quirky looks and grubby, oily smell. This railway has certainly inspired me, and continues to inspire me with my garden railway modelling and my own Bayfields light railway. Exploring this collection of wagons, locos and other rolling stock has got me thinking about what it is I love about the narrow gauge railways so much. Narrow gauge railways were never standard in either gauge or size and were usually built specifically for whatever job they needed to fulfil. Due to the size of the trains being smaller than mainline standard gauge railways, they were cheaper and quicker to construct, and tracks could be laid in more awkward places like up mountains, across peat bogs, into quarries and around factories. A lot of industrial railways were temporary and often lasting only a few years before being taken up and moved once the job was done. Because of their multiple uses, narrow gauge railways had great character and an even greater variety of locos and rolling stock when compared to the mainline railways. Trains varied in size, shape and function. Overall, I just love their variety and character. You can't beat a chunky little steam engine hauling a train of little carriages through the countryside.
Well, that's it for our little visit to the Rural Life Centre. Hope you've enjoyed yourselves. Thanks for watching. And if you're ever interested in coming here, which you definitely should because it really is a hidden gem, then I'll stick all the details in the description box below. Thanks everyone for watching. And I've been Rob from the Bayfields Light Railway. And I'll see you on the next one. Bye for now.